Welcome, Spartans, to Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission of the mainline Halo video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences, and serving up a side salad of lore along the way. I'm being creative. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts spread in the show, email us, podcastevolved@gmail.com, or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. If you like what you hear and want to support the show, visit Evolved on Patreon. For everything Evolved has to offer, visit evolvedhalo.com. This episode, we're debriefing the Spire mission. Not the Spire, just Spire from Halo Infinite. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krista Brown.
A wise person once said, never trust a light bulb. And that person was Master Chief. Not me. I didn't say that.
Last mission was Conservatory. Chief followed the banished trail into the depths of the ring. Along the Forerunner labyrinth, he found 2 dead Spartans, met Despondent Pyre, discovered skimmers, met Despondent Pyre's corpse, killed a bunch of skimmers, heard about something called the Endless, and finally got face-to-face with the floating squid lady known as the Harbinger. She seemed nice.
What a nice squid lady.
Now in the Spire, the Harbinger is gone, and a phallic spire emerges from the depths of the ring nearby. Chief and the weapon think that some answers lie inside. They're mostly right. Date of the game, May 28th, 2560. I do think this part is cool. I mean, you don't necessarily see the Spire come out of the ground, but it's there, and it wasn't there before. So if you had come over to this section of the map and unlocked the Delta fob, you would have seen like the dance floor underneath the Spire, but you didn't see the Spire itself. It wasn't there.
I love the dance floor.
Yeah, so it's cool that it's there now. So there's like a change in environment. Like the game state has changed now. I think in one of our earlier recordings with Matt, we were going around cleaning up a bunch of collectibles in the first open world area, and he mentioned like, oh, you can see the Spire over there, and like you actually couldn't. He was just his game state was further ahead, so that he saw the Spire. But if you came to that kind of cliff that overlooked this other area, it wasn't there before, but now it's there, which I think is cool. So now really all you need to do is get down into the dance floor and then go up into the Spire. And you can do that lots of different ways. You can go over and unlock Fob Delta if you haven't done that already, and encounter the active camo elites, which is a really cool fob. We've talked about that in a previous mission. You could just go down, and there is a warthog down below with a Hydra, and there's some ghosts and a bunch of brutes, and you could go down and get in the warthog, you go down and get in the ghost, and you can kind of travel down, go through some battles along the way. What I did, because I forgot I had done this in the previous connections, collectible thing, I unlocked the Scorpion. So I went and got a Scorpion and rolled that bad boy down, and it was okay. I feel like the road that you get to travel down there is a windy road that you can take all the way, but there's a lot of enemies too that are just pummeling you with everything that they have. I think there is a skewer. It's either a skewer or it was just manglers coming at me from all angles, and I was like, oh crap, this thing's gonna explode. So I was like panicking, trying to go slowly and kill everything along the way. I eventually did get it up. You can't get into the dance floor. There's some blockades, so you can't bring your Scorpion in, but you can at least see what's inside there and start pelting it or them with your Scorpion cannon. So I at least got one of the hunters that are down there. So yeah, it was okay. Taking the Scorpion felt powerful at this point. And again, you have to have done everything to have the Scorpion for this moment. So it kind of is. It feels weird. Well, I guess maybe if you beat this previous mission, you might have got enough Valor. I didn't check that to see if that last mission, Conservatory, gave you Valor. So there may be a chance that if you hadn't unlocked the Scorpion, you could have now unlocked it. But really, this is a decent spot to use it. David, what was your approach here after the last mission coming into this?
Today I took the ghost down and kind of like
Mm-hmm.
fought my way down through all the troops, which was kind of fun. Because there's loads of skewer guys, there's loads of other ghosts that you fight, loads of grunts and tons of brutes here, and they have like a kind of like a checkpoint kind of set up with loads of barriers and loads of dudes right in front of the dance floor, as you keep calling it, which is pretty cool. And like behind them to the right is a Crash Pelican with a bunch of weapons and a rocket launcher. So like there's loads for you to play around this area. It's really nice. I will say that like the first time I found this, I like didn't really know where I was, and like I had a sniper rifle and I killed the hunters from miles away. And like,
Oh, really?
and that was like the first time I did it, and I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. I was like, I wonder, could I do it this way? And I did, and it was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Nice.
Every time since then, it actually is tough because the hunters are tough. So I like to go to Fob Delta, load up on Marines, and take a razor back down here. I just think that's just so much fun. Bringing the Marines into the dance floor area is pretty cool. They all die no matter what difficulty I've played it at.
Yeah.
Almost all the time.
So
The
you're
hunters are just too good.
sacrificing them.
I bring them with me for a fight. Like maybe they might win. Who knows? But it's a great area. I love the lead up to the Spire. I think it's pretty cool. It's a fun area to play in.
Yeah, and the hunters is kind of a reveal because we haven't met hunters yet, unless you went and got one of the skulls from the connections area, that little island that exists up above. There's a couple hunters that are guarding a skull, but otherwise, this is the first hunter fight, and the weapon comments on that too. She's like, "Oh, what are these?" And what is Chief's exact words? He just
Hunters.
says another problem or something like that. Yeah, another classic Chief line. Krista, what did
Hi.
you do?
I got in a ghost, and I murdered everyone. And then I proceeded to the dance floor to show off my moves. I'm an actual genius. So in the previous mission, I had grabbed a cinder shot and what's it called? It's the other Forerunner weapon. Oh, a sentinel beam. I'd grab both those because I'm an actual genius. And that gave me enough firepower to kill one of the hunters and then take the other hunter down to half health. And then conveniently, they just have a skewer sitting right next to him. So I skewered him to death, which was great.
Nice.
Much better than my first time playing this when I tried to use traditional hunter tactics and died over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
They are very smart. They always turn straight towards you, so you kind of have to use your grapple shot and grapple shot like right behind them as you're standing in front of them to hit them. Yeah. It's very dangerous. Only professionals should do that, so be careful.
Yeah, they just absorb a lot of damage, so they're not as easy as they have been in the past. Which
is nice. They should feel like a boss battle, right? I mean, it should feel like you're killing these giant monsters because they're giant monsters. It shouldn't be like I think it was like Halo ODST where you could hit them in the back like 5 times and then they just die.
Right.
It was brilliant. or Halo CE, the classic. You shoot it in the back with a pistol and
the one hit kill.
And it dies. Yeah. It's great. They come down and it plays the cool music and then you shoot them once and they're dead. They've learned their lesson.
I mean, the style looks good. You know, like they look good in the Halo Infinite version, and they're beefy, and they don't. I didn't feel like they charged at me enough. They were just more like, you know, bring it on, buddy. You know, and then just absorb a ton of damage. It's just impossible to get behind them. I like that approach, David, where you're just kind of shooting them from a distance too. I mean, that comes in handy because you can see them far enough away. But yeah, I think I was able to kill one. I think it was 2 scorpion shots. And then one died, and then my scorpion blew up, and then I had to go in and do the rest of it. All right, so hunter fight at the bottom here, and then we have a little console, and if you can see the console, it'll highlight with your scanner, but you can't hit it. You can't activate the console until you do kill the hunter. So once you do kill them, then the weapon will activate it. And what does she say here? She says something about let's see, she says, the protocol's not banished in Origin. It's sturdier than I expected. Okay, so
She says something about it being much older, right?
Yeah, what does she say here?
Yeah, she does, yeah.
It's not in Halopedia, but I think you're right.
If it's
so
not here,
anyway,
then it's when she's in the Spire. She mentions the age.
Yeah. So then she does her snap of her fingers, says we're in, and then you hop in the grav lift. So the grav lift will then take you all the way up inside of this spire, and you just keep going up. You just keep going. And you can kind of see everything around you, all this Forerunner weirdness. You don't really know what's going on, but you continue climbing, and then it'll finally kind of plop you at the top, somewhere up at the top, I guess, inside this thing. And there's a little dialogue of like, Weapon being like, wow, this is exactly what I expected it to be. And then, so there's a little window. You can see some weird Forerunner-y stuff. You can climb around, and then you pop up on top. And then there's a console up on top. And then maybe that's where she says the thing. Yeah, she's plug me in over there. She says, interesting. This structure has been activated using a protocol that's far older than anything I've ever seen. It knows we're here. And then, David, what happens?
And we get another little cutscene, and we meet another monitor. Maybe this
My
one will
boyfriend
survive.
shows up.
Yeah. So this is Adjutant. Blanking on his name.
Adjutant Resolution.
That's the one. And he's kind of quirky. He is like, hey, if I'm here, that means the Spandon Pyre is indisposed. What's the story? And you're like, she's dead. And you're like, holy crap, was it you? And you're like, no. He's like, are you sure it wasn't you? And the Weapon's like, yeah. I love this little... Yeah, I love this little... It's like, okay, you're friendly. You're here to see the platform. Come with me. And the observation platform. So he says, as you can see, the Spire has been successfully deployed. And he's like, come with me. And I'm like, okay. Clearly, this guy is super happy to be around. But kind of obviously, like, holy crap, the Spandon Pyre, he's obviously like a backup system. Which is cool. I like the idea of like backup monitors. That's cool.
Yeah, that's the first time that's been addressed, as far as I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, this might just be a, Zeta Halo thing.
It's an installation, mid Zeta thing, yeah. Yep, so then you follow him through a door, and then he does a portal, and you go through the portal, and then you go across a bridge.
Wait, no, he forgets the bridge, though.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
goes forward, and then he's like, I think I'm forgetting something. You're like, It's adorable. So I love it.
I have a comment on this. Maybe I'll just say it now, because otherwise I forget. Is like the Spire here, and we're kind of almost to the end of the mission already. It's really cool to go inside the Spire, and we saw this Spire in the trailers in the demo, and he's like, what is the thing in the back there? Is that the Palace of Pain? So we've seen this structure, and we've spent like 2 seconds inside of it, at least in this mission, right? And you don't really fight anything, and it wouldn't make sense to fight anything inside here anyway, but it's just like a little tour of what's going on inside of this thing.
And he explains what it does.
Yeah. And they've done a great job of recreating this, or creating this thing, but you don't really spend much time in here. It's this massive structure, and you can just kind of walk through it, go up and down, and then you have this thing that happens at the end here. Any thoughts on that, David?
Not particularly. It's cool. It's a nice environment.
Okay.
I'm glad that it moves pretty quick, because you just spent the last mission trawling through Forerunner hallways. So I'm glad that this is a little bit different, and that is kind of quick enough. It's kind of obvious what's going to happen. You're here to turn this thing off. This guy's super happy that it's on, so you're going to like, okay, there's going to be a confrontation here, and we've all done this before. But it actually did still surprise me with what they actually did. Yeah.
You eventually get to a area that is like a lookout of the Spire, and
an obvious boss room.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. So you go and plug in the weapon into this console that's at the end. Oh, he conveniently just goes away, right? He's like, okay, here we are, and then I'm out of here. So like, okay. You poke around a little bit, then you go find the console, and then you plug in the weapon. She says, oh, that's not so bad. This structure's purpose is simple. Rebuild the ring. Okay. More specifically, create the materials needed to repair it. And then John's like, nah, we're destroying this thing. And she's like, why? It's so beautiful. Oh, that's right, the banish. Okay, yeah. And so, we're seeing a lot of her cute naivete, right? Of like, oh, this is amazing, but oh, yep, the mission is to, stop the banish. So that makes sense. So John, he says, shut it down permanently, and then Adjutant Resolution comes back and says, no.
I thought you were friendly.
Yeah, so he has the 343 guilty spark moment, but then he is a much beefier 343 guilty spark because this monitor gets fucking max suit.
Yes, it's so cool.
Yeah, talk about it, Krista.
Okay. So he's like, I thought you guys were friendly, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you now, and he gets into this giant mech suit, and it's kind of just a floaty thing, big thing that has these 4 obvious, the most obvious,
shoot me here.
Shoot here points ever. They have big bright lights on them. He shoots some lasers and calls you mean names and stuff like that. Every time you shoot one of the very obvious places that you should probably shoot, he is temporarily disabled, so you can just go up to him and just put all your bullets in his face. And every time you do that, he has a big laser moment. He has a really nice laser moment. Very nice.
Yep, very nice.
So you do that 4 times, and then he's like, good, I don't have the arms anymore. I'm glad you did that. And you're like, okay. And pretty much that's the end. I mean, you shoot him a little more and he dies. I mean, quote unquote dies. And then you're like, cool, my best friend is now dead, and I'm sad.
Yep.
He's my best friend now.
Yeah. Oh, he's your best friend.
Yeah,
yes.
he's my best friend.
He's similar to 343.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he looks like a sentinel, which I thought was kind of neat. The big mech suit is like, oh, this is a sentinel.
It looks like one of those sentinels from Halo 2, like the big giant ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the enforcer ones.
Yeah.
Only doesn't have the big shield in the front. But yeah, I felt like aesthetically it was cool to fight this big old thing. David, what were your thoughts?
It actually made me laugh the first time I saw it. I was like, oh my god.
Did it?
Giving a monitor a mech suit, I was like, this is ridiculous. But like, he's tough enough. Especially like his big laser beam will take you down.
Oh yeah,
which is cool. There's plenty of weapons and ammo boxes around here to have like a fun little fight in. You just lob him grenades and stuff like that. It's fine. It doesn't last too long, which I'm glad about as well. It doesn't kind of overstay its welcome. It's not like he's not super bullet spongy. He's, like Krista said, it's like totally telegraphed what you need to do, which I don't really mind here because it's just a quick little mini boss fight thing, which is fine. So like I think it's okay.
It was kind of nice to have the monitor fight back physically, because obviously in previous games the monitor was 343 guilty spark and literally couldn't do anything except taunt you a little bit. And then Halo 3 came around and he just had a face laser. I mean, the monitors themselves are pretty helpless, so it's nice to make him a boss by giving him something to be less helpless with. Mm-hmm. It made sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really goes to show you because, it's been a while since we played Halo 5, but we did get some boss fights in Halo 5, but we weren't obviously a fan of those because
they were all the
same. Right? Literally the same. It was just more of the guy, same fighting patterns. But here in Halo Infinite, obviously they've loud and clear heard players because they have implemented boss fights all over the place, and they're all a little bit different. Well, for the most part. So this is like, what are we going on? Like, if you call all the high value targets bosses, technically those are different fights. And then you have him and you have a couple others along the way. Like, we've done a lot of these encounters. Whereas in Halo, in the original trilogy, especially, and even in Halo 4, like boss fights weren't really a thing. You had like 1 or 2 or 3, total. There weren't really these final encounters. There were just kind of more enemies, more swarms of enemies that you needed to get through versus like one final thing. So I don't know. I feel like I like the mechanic, and I'm happy it's here in Halo, and I want to see more of it. David, any thoughts on just boss battles in general?
I like them. I think they're really fun. I think they really kind of put some worth in some of these characters. Because obviously when you enter a room and there's a gold elite and he, like, has a big weapon and it's like, okay, whatever, and you kill him. It's nice to have named enemies with health bars. You know, just something to kind of signal, like, an accomplishment, the end of a level, whatever's going on. We really haven't seen much boss fights since Halo 2 and then Halo 5 came around, so it's nice to see them kind of come back, because it's more of RPG elements. It gets you more, into the world and into the characters and stuff like that. No matter, like, how big or small the boss is, it's still, like, you get to have an arena, you get to fight an enemy. It's very fun. So I like boss fights. I like more RPG elements in my Halo, so I was very happy to be able to fight all these interesting characters.
Totally agree. I do have one concern about it, but David, you go ahead first, and I'll say my concern.
Yeah, I think they're fine. They're not amazing boss battles. I like that they're a little bit different. They're not too repetitive, but we do get, like, some repetitive boss fights in this game. No, they're fine. They're okay, like, do you know what I mean? None of them are particularly amazing moments, I think, and that's just, I know, first-person boss battles in games or first-person shooters are, they're just, bullet spongy. Do you know what I mean? They're all the same every game, more or less.
Sure.
Maybe there's some unique mechanic you might have to do a thing, but, like, I think it's grand. They're totally fine boss battles.
Okay. So my comment was, they're gonna run into a problem again. I like boss battles, and just something different. Bullet spongy, to your point, is like, yeah, I mean, but they do switch things up a little bit. At the tail end of the game. But a lot of that is just like the nature of the first person shooter versus, a third person action game where you can do things a lot differently. But I think they are going to run into a problem if they do continue to do boss battles, and I would like them to. But today is a big death day for a lot of Banished. Like, how many Banished have died today, and how many bosses have died today because John showed up. So you're going to run into a problem where you can build up a character or not build up a character, and then they're just going to die in a boss battle. So is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
I mean, the boss doesn't necessarily have to die at the end of a boss battle.
True.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So, I mean, if they're creative enough with the boss battles and reoccurring characters and stuff like that, I mean, we're not talking about Warden Eternal creativity, because that was terrible. But, I mean, you can get creative with your bosses where you can encounter them multiple times, and then they grow as characters, and they have different abilities and stuff like that. And that makes a more engaging, overarching story, because you are facing off against a particular character multiple times. Just don't do the Warden Eternal thing. Just make it a little more interesting and make it a little more sense. But, no, I can see them... I can see where you're coming from.
Warden Eternal made sense, but it just wasn't well delivered.
Yeah,
the battles weren't...
It was just the same thing.
Like, lore-wise, oh yeah, he's got a ton of bodies, that's cool. But then it was just the same.
Yeah. And I can see where your trepidation is, because it's like, you can only make so many villains that you're actually going to give a shit about.
Right.
I mean, at some point you're like, I'm just going to kill this guy, I'm never going to see him again, why should I give a shit about him?
And then they'll write about him in a book and give me all this backstory that, well, he's dead already, so why do I care?
Yeah. And I think it's nice to have these kind of pseudo-boss battles where it's not a named character, but it still feels like a boss battle. I mean, not every boss battle needs to be a crazy, like, powerful character. I mean, like Tremonius. I mean, Tremonius was just kind of there.
Yeah.
But, no, I think if they get creative enough, they can incorporate these boss battles and still make them interesting and not just too much.
Yeah. So hopefully they can thread that needle, because there is a place where it's too much on one side and too much on the other. So hopefully, like, I wouldn't mind having a fight against, a boss that you've, like, say a future game, and I won't spoil anything, or future DLC, and you, like, meet this guy, and this guy is the thing, or he or she, and then you battle them, but then at the very end, somehow they get away, and then you either have another battle with them, or they, they're still doing bad things, I don't know, but they can do it. But I feel like that would be my biggest concern, because, with Halo, they kill off a lot of good characters, and that's just frustrating. I like being invested in the players in the game, players in the story. Okay, so we do have, so the mission technically is kind of done here. We'll talk about a little bit of what happens, but the next mission just picks up, right? So what I did is I played this cutscene that you do. You go punch weapon into the console, and then a cool thing happens, and I'll let David talk about it. But then I was like, oh crap, I need to save this for our next mission. And so then I quit out of the game and then restarted it, and it restarts you right here, right before this cool thing happens. So it's kind of telling you, like, just here's the mission, even though you don't get like the notification that the mission is done until just, maybe like 30 seconds from now. Like, this really is the end of Spire. So you do have an audio log that we pick up, and we picked up that outside, and that is the prisoner number 4. So again, we'll just talk about this cutscene in a second, and then we'll go back to the prisoner 4. And there's no skulls, no other collectibles, anything else. So these last 2 missions have been pretty just like, here's a bunch of story stuff for you to chew on. We're not going to try to distract you too much with other things. So, David, do you want to talk about a little bit of what happens before we get too far into the next mission?
Yeah, the cutscene is pretty awesome here. So the weapon, you plug her in after the boss fight. She can deactivate. She can take the Spire offline from the grid. She says, good news, bad news. There's a lot of Spires, like hundreds of them, all around the ring. And says, this isn't the main one. This is only one of many. She says, I can take it off the grid, but we have to go to somewhere else to turn them all off. So John is like, whatever, do it. So they turn off the grid, the Spire from the grid. The Spire immediately starts to shut down and kind of like fold back in on itself. And then you're like, oh crap, bad idea. What do we do? John calls in the Pelican, and we're like, we need to get out of here right now. And there's a pretty cool moment where he just takes the weapon and leaps.
Well, Harbinger finds out what they're doing too. So like, she pops in.
Oh, sorry.
And says, how are you doing this? So she knows.
Yeah, there is a moment
somehow.
Is this where she gets scanned?
There's like a weird scan thing that happens.
Yeah. So the
Harbinger says, who are you? And then she says, how are you doing this?
Yeah, obviously the Harbinger is not like aware of like AIs. I get the impression that they're not too familiar with them, which is interesting.
There's also a moment where, John is like, hey, do it. But then he goes, well, wait a minute.
Is it safe? Yeah.
And so that's a little bit of foreshadowing too.
I liked it too as well, because initially I thought he was concerned for like her well-being, but it actually turns out it's a little bit darker than that. Where he's more like concerned of, will this like negatively impact her in such a way as he has to delete her, because he still has these kind of protocols in the background where like if the AI gets out of hand, he's going to delete her. So he still doesn't trust the weapons. There is a moment there where he's like, get out of there now, or like do it now, and she's like, hold on, I can do this, and he's like, do it now, like, and she's like, why don't you trust me? He doesn't really answer. He just kind of takes her and then leaps off the Spire in a really kind of cool way. So like, you're so high up, it's so badass. You see the Pelican coming, and the pilot kind of freaks out. He has to like dive down and open the rear bay. All the shit flies out because nobody ties anything down. So there goes all your guns, everybody, right? All the food, everything he's been living, all of it gone.
Like gum, chapstick.
Yeah, and Chief, he just kind of picks up Chief in the dive, which is pretty cool. And kind of reminiscent of like Halo 5 did this as well, with the Guardian kind of moment, which was pretty cool. So you dive in, you grab the Pelican, and then you get the mission complete, and then it kind of more or less rolls into another cutscene that introduces the next mission straight away. Which is probably the cutscene we've all seen anyway, because it was the E3 demo of the Pelican and stuff. So I don't want to go too much further than there. Yeah,
we'll get into that. There's a cheeky little moment where the pilot asks him, if like, is everybody trying to kill you? And then Weapon's like, it seems like it. And then she's like, oh, wait a minute, he's being funny. I like this guy.
Sarcasm, he's a good guy.
Yeah. So that's a good little moment.
Like, I like him. He's
we'll
funny.
Talk about which is good. So she's endearing, but she's still mysterious, right? Because Chan doesn't completely trust her. They talked about that early in the game. She's super powerful. She's super naive. All this stuff is going on. So she's still this kind of weird thing that we just don't know. Is she's for us, but we don't know if she can be swayed, right? Because that's what happened to Cortana. She kind of went crazy and kind of did her own thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's rate it really quick. Krista, rating?
It's so short, it's hard to give it maybe a 7 or an 8. It's just so short.
Is the lead up to the Spire part of the mission?
I would say so. I mean, the mission card happens right when you exit that cave or thingy, the dizzy room.
Yeah. Okay, so which one, 7 or 8?
I guess 7. I mean, there's not much to it.
I'm the same, but like most of my positive points are because of the lead up to the Spire, not that anything you do in the Spire. So like that's why I give it a 7. I wouldn't give it anything higher, because you get some information, but it's not crazy. You get like a nice little cutscene at the end. The boss fight is okay, and that's kind of it. Do you know what I mean? There's not much else to it. All the other stuff I think is kind of cool happens before you get to it.
Yeah, I'm going to go lower than you guys. I'm going to go 6. Again, I feel like I've been low a lot on Halo Infinite. And mainly just because there's not much to it. Like, I don't really consider the lead up. The lead up to it, to Spire, is kind of just open world stuff to me. It's kind of baked into what this mission is, especially where it drops you off. But the actual mission itself is really just going into this Forerunner structure, talking to this monitor, and then having a boss fight. Like, that's kind of the whole thing. And I feel like, to my comment earlier, is I feel like they could have done a little bit more. Like, if you want to add puzzle stuff, like, add puzzle stuff here and make some jumping puzzles, or make some things where, oh, I touched this wrong thing and then the mission ended. I don't know. But maybe do something inside the Spire from that standpoint. Maybe there's some power seed stuff. I don't know. Maybe you unlock something cool. There's a skull in here. But it feels like a little bit of a wasted opportunity. They spent all this time creating this huge Forerunner thing, which is awesome, and you just kind of zip right through it and go to a boss fight. So, I don't know. Those are my thoughts. All right, let's do the one audio log, and David, play it for us now. All right, so more Lucas Browning stuff. We know that he's been enslaved and used for his reclaimer touch to do things. And so I feel like this one's a little bit of a filler, because there's not a whole lot new. You figure that he's being brought around, but I guess they're just telling you that he's being brought around. And Chaklock is here, and he's more or less just being tortured from here on, as far as we know.
Yeah. I don't think he hasn't been given to the Harbinger yet, right? This is just him just being...
He saw the Harbinger?
Yeah, he released her, but I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't very impressed either. He's like, what the fuck is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess we didn't really touch on that in the last episode, but there, like, we saw the Silex from the Harbinger, we've heard about the Harbinger, and it felt like they were leading up a lot to that moment, that big reveal. And the reveal, again, was fine. But it was, for me, again, I was like, oh, it's a new thing. Huh, interesting. But if you weren't paying attention to all of that lead up, again, if they did found footage or something else where it was a little bit more in your face that you needed to pay attention to these audio logs, then maybe the Harbinger moment would have had a little more impact. But up until that point in the game, you're really just encountering, like, the person that's in your face is Escharum. Like, there's Atriox, and then Escharum, like, is the big bad. And then all of a sudden they throw this other thing that they've been hinting at, if you've been paying attention, but they throw this other thing at you at that moment. And then, this is just kind of more along the kind of the background, what's going on in the larger plan that we're still trying to figure out. Okay. Let us do, I guess, any other tidbits? David, is there any trivia out on Halopedia or anything you want to mention?
No, nothing there.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No trivia.
All right, we'll keep this short. We'll do some community, and we will get out of here.
Hell yeah.
Krista, let's do some Discord.
All right. We're asking Discord more questions. Let's see. Colin asks how many installation monitors does it take to screw in a light bulb? It's great. It's classic. God, people don't use commas in their numbers, and I'm infuriated. Okay, Matt says 1, but it takes, I think it's 10 million years. I'm not sitting here counting the zeros, guys. You gotta throw me a bone every once in a while, come on. Something penis related says all of them. The whole group to meet up and debate about it for 3,000 years. All the while, a Hergok did it 5 minutes ago because they're the only ones who actually get shit done on Forerunner installations. Just like my boy Prone, which is prone to drift. Jedi Spartan 38 says 1 to be the light bulb, 5 brutes to shake it into place, and 1 reclaimer to snipe all 5 brutes and do it properly. Alright, this guy says, well, and then he put a 5 and like 20 zeros, so I don't know what number that is, but that many monitors and the light bulbs would be good in a day. So that's a lot of monitors. Dezuto just says 69. Classic. Toki McPot says 420.69. Classic.
Ooh.
Postman Pat just says 69, 69, 69, 69, 69 repeating. Very good. The pesky bird says 0. They don't have hands.
True.
It's good. I mean, he has a point. They don't have hands. I get paid to see Dad says a lot. They think they're so smart because they have 100,000 years of experience changing light bulbs, but they lack one simple quality: fingers. And then now people are complaining about us, and we're not going to read that. We don't take complaints, thank you. Please leave your complaints to yourself. We're going to keep doing the things that we're doing, and we're not taking any kind of criticism, thank you.
No constructive criticism. Well, we'll take that, but it's not complaints.
No, I think we should keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, we're enjoying it.
Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good.
We're doing great. David, how's Facebook doing?
Fantastic. So, Colin Perkins, 4 days ago. How many installation monitors does it take to screw in a light bulb? Question mark. Question for Mission Debrief. Hello, Internet Spire. Mission. And a good picture. Good picture, Colin.
Yeah, that's a June.
Couple of answers here. Lucas, 1 to get the bulb, and 2 to get the phone number to dial one of their sub-monitors to actually change it. However, it all depends on the speed of the change and the mass of the bulb, or vice versa. Of course, it just might be easier to have the bulb and change the halo ring. It's all relative. That's pretty good. Jason says depends. Is it an African installation monitor or a European installation monitor? It's like somebody guesses reference. It's probably the... I don't know what that is.
Anyway, I'm confused.
Okay. Jointy says 1 just 343. He is the original light bulb, right? Good job, Jointy. Randy says none. They'll just try and kill reclaimers because protocol dictates action. Dickie says 7. 1 to hold the bulb and 6 to commit galactic genocide. Please don't shake the light bulb. Matthew says 69 because nice. Lance, none because they have the sentinels to do it. Lazy bastards. Ray says none. They are the light bulb. Luke, none. The power is out due to flooding. That's pretty good. I like it, Luke. Alexander, all of them to decide if they want to go ahead and change all of them to LED since they were installed as filament bulbs. Brad says 0, you just smash one and the socket till it stays. And finally, Jimmy says 42 and a towel.
Perfect.
There you go,
Beautiful. Colin. All right. Thank you, everyone, for responding. That will do it for our debriefing of Spire from Halo Infinite. On the next episode, we'll be debriefing Pelican Down.
Ooh.
I wonder what happens next. Send your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. You can also support the show by visiting Evolved on Patreon. For everything Evolved has to offer, visit evolvedhalo.com. Until next time, evolve.
Evolve.